Have you ever been so hurt by someone that you wished, just for a moment, that karma would pay them a visit? Well, let me tell you a story about my ex, James, and how the universe served him a dish of revenge so cold it was practically frozen solid. Our story starts like many others. James and I, Emily, were the picture-perfect couple. We met in college, shared a love for bad sci-fi movies and spicy food, and after 5 years together, we were living in a cozy apartment with our golden retriever. Max. Life was good. Or so I thought. I was planning our future, daydreaming about wedding venues and baby names. James, however, was planning something else entirely. The signs were there, I just chose to ignore them. The late nights at the office, the sudden need for privacy with his phone, the way he'd flinch if I touched his arm unexpectedly. I chalked it up to stress from his new high-pressure job in finance. I tried to be the supportive girlfriend, making his favorite meals, giving him space, telling myself this was just a phase. Oh, how wrong I was. The truth came crashing down on a Tuesday. I remember it was raining, a pathetic fallacy if there ever was one. I'd come home early from my graphic design job, planning to surprise him. The surprise was on me. I heard giggling from our bedroom. Not his laugh, but a high-pitched, unfamiliar one. My heart hammered against my ribs as I pushed the door open. And there he was, with a woman I'd later learn was a junior colleague named Chloe. The moment our eyes met, his face went from shock to something ugly, a smirk. He didn't apologize. He didn't look ashamed. He looked amused. Chloe scrambled for her clothes, but James just lay there, propped up on an elbow, and said the words that would haunt me for months. Well, this is awkward. I guess you know now. I was frozen. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. And then he laughed. A full, genuine laugh, as if I'd just walked in on a harmless prank. Look at your face, he chuckled. You're so dramatic, Emily. That laugh shattered something inside me. It was worse than the betrayal itself. It was the complete and utter disrespect. I finally found my voice, a choked whisper. Get out. He shrugged, still smiling. Gladly. This place is a dump anyway. I was getting tired of playing house. He and Chloe left, and the sound of their laughter echoed down the hallway, mixing with the sound of my world falling apart. The weeks that followed were a blur of tears, ice cream, and Max licking my face as if he understood. My friends were my saviors, pulling me out of my grief pit. They reminded me of my worth, something James had tried to extinguish with his cruel laughter. Slowly, I started to piece my life back together. I redecorated the apartment, throwing out every memory of him. I poured myself into my work, landing a huge client that had been a long shot. I started to heal. Meanwhile, I heard through the grapevine that James and Chloe were living the high life. They moved into a flashy downtown apartment, posted endless photos of their lavish dates, and seemed to be on top of the world. He'd text me occasionally, not to apologize, but to gloat. A picture of a new sports car with the caption, upgraded. A snapshot of a fancy dinner with, bet you missed this. Each message was a tiny dagger, a reminder of his cruelty. But with each one, my sadness hardened into a quiet resolve. I didn't want revenge, I just wanted him to be a distant memory. I blocked his number and focused on my own happiness. This is where the story gets interesting. This is where karma decided to wake up and get to work. About a year after our breakup, the first crack in James's perfect life appeared. The company he worked for was hit with a massive financial scandal. It turned out some of the top executives, including James's mentor, were involved in a huge fraud scheme. James wasn't directly implicated, but the investigation turned his life upside down. He was suspended, his assets were temporarily frozen, and his reputation was dragged through the mud. The flashy job that made him feel so superior was gone, just like that. I heard he and Chloe started fighting constantly. The financial strain was too much for a relationship built on superficial things. The lavish dates were replaced with screaming matches about bills. The sports car, which was leased, of course, was repossessed. It was a classic case of easy come, easy go. But karma wasn't done. Not by a long shot. The universe, it seems, has a flair for the dramatic. One evening, I was walking Max in the park when I saw a familiar figure sitting on a bench, head in his hands. It was James. He looked deflated. The arrogant smirk was gone, replaced by a deep-set weariness. He was thinner, his expensive suit replaced with a wrinkled t-shirt. He saw me and his eyes widened. For a moment, I thought he might try to say something smug, but he just looked down. He told me everything. Chloe had left him, taking what little money he had left. His name was blacklisted in the finance industry. He couldn't find a job. He was living on a friend's couch. He was broken. And then he said it. The words I never thought I'd hear. I'm sorry, Emily. I was a monster. I thought having all that stuff, the money, the hot girlfriend, made me a man. But I was just an insecure boy. Losing you was the stupidest thing I've ever done. He looked up at me, his eyes filled with a desperate hope. Can Can we maybe get a coffee sometime? Just to talk? I looked at him, this ghost of the man who had laughed at my pain. There was no anger left in me. No desire for revenge. Just a profound sense of pity, and an even more profound sense of peace. I had moved on. I was happy. My life was full, not with flashy things, but with genuine love from my friends, pride in my work, and the unconditional affection of my dog. I gave him a small, polite smile. No, James. I don't think so. I wish you the best in getting your life back on track. And I walked away. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The sound of his laughter had been replaced by a much sweeter sound, the quiet, confident rhythm of my own footsteps moving forward. Karma didn't destroy his life with some grand, fiery explosion. It was a slow burn. It took away all the shiny toys he used to define his worth, leaving him with nothing but himself. And he discovered that without them, he wasn't much of anything at all. My revenge wasn't in seeing him fail. My revenge was my own success, my own happiness, my own healing. It was the realization that the best response to his laughter was to build a life so joyful, its sound would drown his out completely. And that, my friends, is a victory sweeter than any revenge plot you could ever imagine. Thanks so much for listening to my story. If you've ever been through something similar, remember that your best revenge is living well. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more true stories. See you next time.